Here we are, and just like that again, we're reviewing and recapping Sex in the City, Season 1. Now we're up to Episode 5, The Power of the Female Sex. That's right. Now, this is a short prologue. I want to first thank everyone again who has been watching and following and commenting on the last 4 episodes. And this has been an interesting ride. I adore how much engagement you guys are giving me, your stories, your background. Keep it up. I love it. You guys are an interesting bunch. And it makes this even the more worth the while because without that, it's just literally me speaking into a camera, into a void. And as I noted before, you guys know I can't see you, right? You guys know that I am looking into a camera. So if you don't engage and comment and let me know what's going on in your mind, I kind of feel like I'm going to be like a crazy person just speaking into a camera. So thank you, everyone who has been following with me. So we're going to get into it really quick. This, I'm going to give you a little bit of incitement of what I was feeling. It was definitely one of the stranger ones. It put the sex into Sex in the City. It is, again, Friday night. Remember, I'm rewatching this with my friends. At the time, they had already seen season 1 and they dragged me kicking and screaming to get into the show. And I started following in season 2 first, and I didn't understand what was happening. So they concocted this, plan to come over every Friday night and rewatch. They're rewatching. I'm watching for the first time. So, I have to say, after watching the first couple of scenes, I started questioning my friends. Not because of the show. I'm like, but when we get to that scene, I'll tell you why. Because finally, I was able to turn the tables on them and be like, hey, yeah, baby, why you no be doing that for me? But again, let's get into this and I'll see you in the next. Stay tuned, okay? Thank you. Sex in the City, Season 1, Episode 5, The Power of Female Sex. And I have to say, this was very enlightening. So let's get into it. Scene, open. There's a narration from Carrie stating that the most powerful woman in New York City is not Tina Brown. It is not Diane Sawyer, nor is it Rosie O'Donnell, which back then, I don't know how powerful Rosie O'Donnell was, but I know what is Diane Sawyer. I don't remember who Tina Brown is, and forgive me, I didn't even look her up, so my apologies if she was popular. But my God, the obsession with Rosie O'Donnell on the show, because we all remember what she did, and just like that. So this whole thing is being set up because there's a new restaurant that's opening, and the name of it is called Balzac, which is funny because they name a restaurant that never really existed, neither then or now. It's supposed to be some play over a real existing restaurant called Balthasar. So this is a setup for Samantha and for Carrie to be waiting inside the restaurant that seems to be the hottest new restaurant in New York City at that moment. And it's overcrowded and they're standing at the bar. Samantha's pissed off because they've been waiting 45 minutes to be seated. And she goes on to tell Carrie, I don't understand what the hell is going on here. Do they not know who we are? And Carrie's like dying, starving, I'm sure, because when you don't cook or know how to cook and you need to go out and eat, that's what happens. And Carrie's like, so who are we? And Samantha proclaims that, well, I own my own PR firm and you are a column writer in a magazine. She's a sex columnist in a newspaper. I don't even remember the name of it. I know it doesn't exist, but I believe it was an actual column. I don't remember this at all. So Samantha huffs and puffs her way to the most powerful woman who happens to be the hostess of this new restaurant. And she stomps over to her and says, we've been waiting 45 minutes. And when can we be seated? And the hostess with the mostest, leastest, is ignoring her. And Samantha said, you don't understand. I'm kind of somebody. And then she points to Carrie in the crowd. She's definitely somebody. And we like to be seated. And the hostess, again, ignores her. She goes back to Carrie and she tells Carrie, give me a 20. Carrie's like, for what? She goes, do you think it should be a 50? Carrie's like, if I had a $50 bill, do you think I would be here? Good point. Got it. They leave the restaurant and Samantha's still in her huff and puff mode, stipulating and stating that she used to be that girl 10 years ago, which would have made her 30. But she used her power in a malevolent manner. Forgive me for not pronouncing it correctly. It's 4 a.m. Give me a break. She tells Carrie that if they were men, they would have been seated and drinks would have been given to them. That's probably a little bit true. Let's start with because they probably would have overpaid and to get in. But here's my whole thing about this. First of all, I get that it's a new restaurant. But you're in New York, right? There's a new restaurant opening, like an opening of an envelope, okay? This whole scene about having to be at this overcrowded restaurant to be treated like crap, this whole premise about, I want to give you my money. And when I want to give you my money, I want something in return that's not crap. Could you do that for me, please? Could you give me good customer service? Could you provide some service to me that doesn't make me feel beneath you? This whole thing about, how they do the luxury items and you go to these luxury stores and they like, well, you need to be paying X amount before you even are eligible for a freaking Birkin bag, or they treat you like crap because you're not on some list and all this other nonsense. Who the hell made that up? I don't get it. I have money. I want to go give you my money. And then on turn, you want to treat me like crap? But then I still stay? And then I want to give you more money to get in as a tip or a bribe or whatever. It must be nice to be rich. It must be, because I don't get it. I would never, first of all, if I see a line in a restaurant, I'm going to the next one. If someone is treating me like crap when I want to be seated and I want to give you what I've earned, I leave. Why is this obsession with this materialistic lifestyle? And again, it's because I don't have it. I don't know if I would be that type of person if I had it, but I think if I had it, that I wouldn't be the one waiting at the bar. I would have enough money to bribe the crazy people and to get in and to be seated at the best table. Isn't that what the real money people do? Right? To see a crowd of people and be standing there like, I want to get in. Like, girl, get a grip. Now, the next scene is even funnier. So let's get into it. Stay tuned. I'm going to call this section Carrie, the call girl, and Amelita, the pimp introduction. When I saw this, I was like, okay, I'm beginning to understand what's happening in this episode. As she leaves Samantha after they try to find some place to eat, she ends up looking for shoes again, shoe shopping at Dolce & Gabbana. And they show the shoes, which, by the way, all look like Victoria's Secret shoes. And I swear to God, I've seen these shoes on her before. I want to say she bought a pair for one of her dates with Berger. You remember Berger? We'll get there. We're getting there. So she's very excited. She goes into the store and you see her trying on the purple fuzzy shoes with her ugly toes. And she tells the salesperson, I'll take them. As she is at the counter, the cashier takes her credit card, cuts it, and says, your credit card company has told me to do this, and now they want to talk to you. I'm like, I'm beginning to understand the addiction, because this is an addict. I mean, you understand this, right? She's addicted to this. So as she goes onto the phone to speak to them, some woman comes with an American Express card and says, don't need to do that. I'll buy them for you. And I'm like, what? And she turns around. She goes, oh my God, Amelita. And the only reason why I remember this woman, because she's a pimp. A P-I-M-P. Pimp. And She tells Carrie, I haven't seen you in a long time. Please take it. And Carrie's like, no, don't do that. She goes, oh my God, when was the last time I saw you? You're like a sister to me that I never see. I don't buy you a birthday gift. I haven't bought you a Christmas gift. And I'm just looking at my friends like, do you hear this? Because they each on sides of me and like, how close are we again? Did I not buy HBO for you? Technically? And and you couldn't even buy the popcorn that we're eating? They're laughing. I'm like, keep it up. Keep it up. If this gets any worse, keep it up. I'm laughing with them because we stopped exchanging gifts years ago because it doesn't make any sense. We love each other, but I want some of that love. So I come to find out that this woman's credit card is not really her credit card. It's her boyfriend. I want to say Carlo. And she tells Carrie, that's Carlo. I'm staying with him at the pimp hotel. And he has a lot of money but he has a teeny tiny little penis, but he knows how to use it. Oh, and she says, turn around and wave, darling, wave. I'm thinking to myself as they're waving to teeny tiny penis, the actor, I just wonder if he spent the rest of his life trying to prove that he doesn't have a teeny tiny little penis that he needs to know how to use. I'm just saying, because if that's your entry into the world of acting and that's your memorable role, I'm going to say that you have a hell of a hill to hurdle. Because it reminded me of the episode in Friends where Joey became, I guess, the face of gonorrhea. I want to say he was the face of gonorrhea. And he had to run around trying to explain to women that he doesn't have an STD. So I was thinking the same. I'm like, if I've never seen him again. He could be popular in another country. I don't know. But I'm ever going to call him teeny tiny little penis. So then Carrie is like, I can't take the shoes. And she's like, take the shoes. Of course, Carrie takes the shoes because she's an addict. And addicts take that. And she gingerly is walking out of the store with the Dolce & Gabbana bag, and she's listening to Amelita speaking to her in Italian, and she says in the narration voice, I have no idea what it is that she's saying, but I have all the Italian that I need in my hand. Dolce, 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 dolce. I can't even afford the perfume. I wouldn't even ask my friends to buy me the perfume. This is back then and a little bit back now. Just saying. If you have friends like that, you don't need to get married to a wealthy guy. You could just call your bib. So now Carrie could be a hooker. I'm sorry, a call girl. Next up, one of my favorite scenes, which is, no, that's not next up. Because what happens is that she goes back. Oh, hold on. She goes back to her apartment with the Dolce, Dolce, Dolce bag. And you see her thumbing through her bills. And suddenly she says that she doesn't have enough money to pay her bills, so she throws it in the trash. We could do that? I didn't know we could do that. Is that possible? How is this girl paying for her light bill? We know that she doesn't use gas because she doesn't cook. But is she just living on candles? First of all, if I were to throw any of my bills out, I'm guessing, just a guess, they would start cutting stuff off. How is this girl doing this? And this is all I keep thinking. I'm looking at my friends like, are we allowed to, can we just throw them out and just ignore them? They don't give a they don't care. Then she sits down on her computer and she writes, I envy Amelita. She lives a life full of men and money. She doesn't have a job. And I'm like, call girl. Yeah. Okay. And that she somehow has the sexual energy that just manifests all this stuff. No, call girl. And she wants to know in her narration, when does professional girlfriend become just professional? Okay, I'm going to say this once. If you have to ask, it's right now. You know how they say that if you go into a store and you have to ask how much it is, that means you can't afford it? Same thing. If you have to ask what the difference between professional girlfriend and professional is, you're the problem. You're the problem. And I'm freaking out because I'm thinking to myself, I didn't know it then, but then I started thinking now. This is me now. I'm like, is this how Andy Cohen started thinking about the real housewives of all countries and counties? Because aren't they friends? Isn't that whole thing about the rich housewives and they're marrying men and money and they get divorced and isn't that, is this how this all started? Because it sounds eerily familiar. I'm just saying, connect the dots. This is not a conspiracy yet. Stay tuned, because now we have my favorite scene, the scene with the group of girls, when they were friends and this was actually a show. Stay tuned. My favorite part. The girls are all in, the apartment that Carrie has that could have the lights and water shut off at any given moment. And she set up a poker game in order to maybe get a little bit of money, because I guess she's kind of fleecing her friends without them knowing it. I'm just saying that because she threw out her bills and has no means. But she has her Dolce and Gabbana shoes, which, by the way, she has 90 of them in the closet. Okay? Just be clear. So as she is hosting this poker party, Samantha is stating that women have the right to use their sexuality for whatever power they can get. Give it to Samantha. She knows how to put things in perspective. And, of course, Miranda says, short of sleeping with someone. She goes, no. And this is where the discussion happens where, oh, you shouldn't do that. Because, Miranda is in her New York bitchy high mode. Samantha is in like, listen, get it any which way you can and have some fun with it. And Charlotte's like, no, you shouldn't do that. And Carrie's just sitting there like, how many cards can I count here? Because I kind of need to pay my bills. And Charlotte starts to ask a very simple, sweet question. She's starting to ask, when does it happen where you feel that you might have to give something to someone in order to get something in return? I'm paraphrasing. Okay. Remember, it's 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm tired. And everybody's asking, why, Charlotte, are you asking this question? Because apparently she met this artiste. His name is something Neville, or Neville Vampire, or great, 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 great grandfather of the vampire. What is that? What is that? And that he came into her gallery. He's a popular artist, and that she bumped into him and he asked her to go to his cabin in the woods to see his artwork, Cabin in the Woods, and that she just felt that she didn't want to be put in a position where he may ask her to do something, aka sex, in order for him to have access to the gallery and show his work. Of course, Miranda's like, if he asks you to do anything like that, you call me immediately and we're going to sue the shit out of him. That's my girl. And Charlotte's like, no. And then all of a sudden you hear a knock on the door and it's, our good friend Spidey neighborhood, what's his name? Oh my God. Skipper. It's getting to a point that I'm forgetting his name. He's forgettable. You're forgettable. That's who you are. Yes, I know that's not the words, but that's how I interpreted it. So he was supposed to come and pick up Miranda because we're still pretending to be in this relationship. And Miranda opens the door and says, you're an hour early. And this poor guy is like, oh, do you want me to wait outside? Could you be more of a doormat? Skipper. And thank God Carrie's like, no, come on in. And that's how it ends, because Miranda's like, well, I need to leave now because you guys are, bleeding me dry. And she goes off with Skipper. And then we have the next scene, which is going to be a little bit more concerning because it ties into Carrie and the pimp that she hasn't seen in a long time, but loves her like a sister and bought her whatever the amount of money she bought her in shoes. There's always a price to pay. And it's coming. too. So the next scene we have is Carrie is trying to get ready into bed. Apparently she doesn't use candles and she doesn't pay for her light bill, but she has a lamp turned on. And Amelita, the pimp, calls her and says, Carrie, you bitch, what are you doing right now? And here is where the payment begins. So she is convincing Carrie that she should come out and meet her at Balzac, the restaurant that they were rejected from originally, that, Samantha was irate about, and that put on your clothes and come down. I want you to meet somebody. And Carrie in her head and saying, I really can. And she's like, I can't even afford to go out. But then she justifies it because she feels that she shouldn't let her shoes that she had gotten purchased from the pimp suffer for her budget. So I just want to be clear. A budget is you have a budget and that you're sticking with it. Throwing your bills in the trash is not a budget. So she meets Amelita. She goes to the hostess, Balzac bitch. And the Balzac bitch tells her that she's not on the list so she can't get in. And Carrie's like, no, my friends are here. And in comes the pimp, Amelita, saying, Daddy! And the Balzac bitch is annoyed because apparently she has no control over the fact that people with money can get in and people without money like Samantha and Carrie can't. Got it. She is showing her what her pimp boyfriend, because every pimp has to respond to a pimp, just purchased her at Van Cleef, a $12,000 bracelet. She shows her over to the table where is seated the teeny tiny little penis guy, pimp number 2, and this French guy named Gilles. And he's very handsome. And they sit down and they're having this tit for tat conversation. And all of a sudden, Carrie's getting flustered because she forgot that her, addiction to handsome French architects. Why is everything related to Carrie in France? I didn't realize this until probably, and just like that, how much French is in this American girl. Like when she threw Big's ashes over the bridge. So as they're walking out of the restaurant, after the pimp introduction, Carrie is talking to Gilles, and she finds out that he is divorced and he has a 5-year-old daughter living with her mom in Paris, and he's love bombing her, saying, "You're so beautiful." And she's like, "Oh, thank you." And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And he says, "I think you're too beautiful to be a writer." And she's like, "I think you're too handsome to be an architect." I'm like, I think I'm going to throw up. And he says that, "I think you should give up life and come to me and move to Paris." And she's like, "Aren't you going to Brazil for 6 months?" He goes, "Then you could come with me there." She goes, "Oh, I'm so tempted because I'm so broke and I can save on rent." I'm like, is that how you talk to someone on not even a date? And he's like, "Oh, does writing not pay well?" She goes, "Yes, it does." I'm like, "Does it? Does it? Does it, Carrie? Does it really?" And she goes, "But I have a little substance abuse problem." I'm like, "What?" And he looks at her like, "What?" And she points to her shoes. She goes, "I have a shoe addiction," or something like that. And he laughs, and I'm like, that's not the same, but it is an addiction. So at least you are aware that you're a little crazy. And suddenly he's like, I would love for you to show me the down. And she's like, okay, haven't you been here before? She goes, "Yes, I've been here 12 times, but I've never been shown from someone so beautiful like you." And she finally gives in and she says, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow." And all of a sudden she's walking away from him as he's staring at her like a piece of meat. And she's like, "Yes, of course I saw some red flags. A divorced man with a daughter, incredibly handsome in French." I'm like, "Those are the red flags that you saw? You didn't see it at the restaurant when Amelita Pimp introduced you to this whole scenario? Did this not click into your head, you dumb blonde?" Sorry for any blonde people out there. Come on. She's the reason why. And then all of a sudden she goes, "But I felt like I was floating on air." And you literally see her floating on air. I'm like, this is cute, little quirky, little stupid, but it's kind of cute. Then the next thing you have is that she is in her apartment getting ready for her date with Gilles. And Skipper comes by and he is telling her that he's obsessed with Miranda, that he can't stop having sex, but unfortunately she doesn't let him spend the night, and that he can't get over her, but he feels that she's pushing him away, and he knows that he's annoying. And as Carrie is listening to him, she comes out of the freaking closet in her bra. And I just want to understand something. Are we that close that you could walk around with your bra in front of a guy? Now, granted, it could be almost similar as wearing a bikini, but you're not on the beach. How close are you? Because I don't have any male friends that I walk around in a bra. That struck me. Then she tells him, maybe you should just spend the night without having sex. Apparently, he's addicted to the sex and he can't. So she sits down next to him. She puts her hand on him and he says, sometimes I don't even like to bathe after I have sex with Miranda. I want to smell like her all day. Ill. And she realizes that she's holding his hand and she takes her hand away from him. And she's like, okay, that's it. Ill. And I mean that for anybody, but especially ill Miranda. Come on. Come on. Now, the next scene says she's finally on her date with Gilles, the French architect. And if I'm not doing the French accent, forgive me. I don't know how to say sorry in French. I'm sure somebody will tell me how to do it. I just know je ne sais quoi and ménage à trois. Shh. And stay tuned. And when you have a chat, if you're enjoying this, subscribe. So, Carrie's on the date with Gilles, the French architect. They're walking through Central Park with the cherry blossoms that are blooming and falling. Beautiful scene. She is spinning around with him. She feels like she's in a French movie with him and that it's so romantic. And I'm thinking how much this is costing the pimp, or of course she already paid for the services. So this is the payback. I swear I was thinking that, not knowing what was coming. Okay. And suddenly, as she's spinning and twirling in Central Park, which is, by the way, my place to be. I cannot tell you how obsessed I am with Central Park. Like, I prefer a park over a beach any day of the week. And those cherry blossoms, when they blossom like that, it's one of the most gorgeous scenes in the world. So I appreciate that New York is actually in this show and it looks real. So they're spinning around and she's spun into his hotel room and she's like, he's kissing her all over the place. And she says, stop, wait, I don't sleep with guys that I've only known for a day. And then he says, oh, really? Yeah. But that just goes right over her head and he continues to kiss her. And she thinks in her mind, well, it is a day ahead in Paris. And then all of a sudden you see the morning. I guess they fell into bed together because he wasn't listening to her and she had no presence of mind to stop him. I mean, you went from Central Park to a hotel. What did you think was going to happen? You just met him. So if you don't want to sleep with somebody why would you be in the hotel? Explain me, Lucy. Explain. Because none of this made sense. She is waking up. He's not in bed. He comes over. You look so beautiful while you're sleeping. And she said, oh, are you leaving? And I'm like, well, yeah, he's dressed and you're not. He goes, I have to leave. I need to catch a plane. The plane. And she says, oh, I'll get up. He goes, no, 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 no. Stay. Enjoy yourself. Have free reign of the hotel. I'm like, And my friends are so quiet because they know how I feel about this. Okay. I don't like this type of transaction. Maybe that's why I'm broke. I'm just saying. He kisses her goodbye. He leaves. And she starts crawling herself on the bed. And she's like, he says, I'll call you. When he leaves, she realizes that A, she never got his phone number. Start with that. B, she finds a note on the lamp table. She opens it. And he left her $1,000. Transaction closed. Full payment And I guess she doesn't have to give anything to her pimp. Maybe he paid her off too. I knew it. 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 I knew it then. I know it now. I don't care. That was a transaction. Ladies, make no mistake. I don't care how close you think your friends are. And remember, Amelita, the pimp, was not really a friend. She just met her a few times. She called her Euro trash. She buys you Dolce and Gabbana shoes from the teeny tiny little penis Amex cards and then calls you to go out at night and introduces you to a very handsome man at a bar, at a club, at a restaurant that no one else can get into. I think that she actually was underpaid. I'm just saying. $1,000. And even back then it was a lot of money, but still. Now the fun part begins because the girl's Les Charlotte comes over. So stay tuned. So Carrie's still in the hotel room and she's invited Samantha and Miranda, cynical and sex addict. And she's telling the girls that she doesn't understand why she thought she had such a connection with Gilles. And then what about her screams whore? Well, let's start off with the company you've kept, Amelita, and the fact that when you told him that you don't sleep with someone on just one day of knowing him in his hotel room while he's sucking on your neck like a vampire, and he says, "Oh, really?" and you don't stop him, I'm guessing that could have been the problem. Because she didn't try to stop him. She was all in. And then Samantha is still stuck on the fact that she had dinner at Balzac without her because they couldn't get in. And then as they start discussing the situation, Samantha's like, listen, money is power and sex is power. So it is just an exchange of power. And of course, Miranda, cynical, it's like, that is a horrible, don't listen to her. And Carrie is still in denial. She's like, I don't understand any of this. And Miranda says, well, it could be the fact that he left $1,000 on the table. And Miranda asks her, who is this Amelita chick? Because she fears that she's gotten herself into a high class hooker ring. And I go back to, how does Carrie know all these people randomly and nobody else in her close friend group know who these people are? Because all my friends know who my associates are in one way, shape, or form. So I do ask the question, how do you know all these people? And who are these people? And you should start running background checks. I'm just saying, be careful who you hang out with, right? Then Samantha is, trying to, again, justify the situation, okay? And she doesn't justify it very well. And it upsets Miranda because she's like, what was the exact words that Samantha said? Ooh, you know what? I can't remember what she said, but I know that she said something really sarcastic that set Miranda off. Because again, I'm exhausted. So forgive me. If I remember, I'll put it in the running title down here. And Miranda goes off. And at this point, Carrie's just upset. And she's contemplating what she should do with her newfound money. And this I do remember thinking to myself, pay your bills. Pay your bills. You can't take it back because obviously he never gave her his number. And that's because he had no intentions of seeing you again. And she says, I'm just going to check it off as a really bad date with a cash bonus. Okay. I would like to have 20 of those bad dates I'm not a whore. But if we're going to go tit for tat and we're going to play into this role, hey, he was hot. It wasn't justifiable, but he was hot. I've seen worse for less. I know. It was a horrible thing to say. But remember, this is Fantasyland. This is Carrie's world. This is Michael Patrick King and Darren Star and SJP world. And these are the unrealistic situations that we keep putting these girls into. And this puts the sex into Sex in the City. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I guess listen, as I said, she wasn't unattractive, SJP, at this point. But she wasn't a spring chicken either. And this guy was fairly attractive. And I'm sorry if I'm going to offend anyone, but if he's paying for sex, he couldn't find something better. And Amelita too. She was not hot. I don't understand. I'm like thinking to myself, I've seen hotter. I was hotter. What am I missing here? What am I missing here? Do these men, hot guys, just pay to be with just women? Like, what's the vetting process here? How did he vet Amelita? And how did he just decide that Carrie was going to be the one because he saw her at the restaurant and she thought she was pretty? I'm sure that he can find pretty women anywhere. I understand it's transactional. I get it. And that there's no strings attached. I get it. And maybe he paid her $1,000. I don't know what he paid Amelita, but that seems like an awful lot of money for no strings attached. Can someone tell me? It's too late for me. It is. But I'm curious. Curious minds want to know. Has this happened to you? Do you want to share that story? I would love to hear it. Let me know. Drop a comment. Or if you know someone, or if you want to pretend that it's not you and you want to change the names for, confidential purposes, tell me. Because in my group of friends that I know of, this happened. I've heard of it. I've seen it on television. This was funny. God bless Samantha. I started thinking, you know what? I could have used a friend like Samantha back then. I wouldn't tell that to my friends, but I was thinking that. Now we get into Charlotte and the vampire. If I couldn't have been more disturbed by Carrie, the high-class call girl, and Amelina, the low-class pimp, we have now the storyline of Charlotte and the vampire. Charlotte is on her way up to meet the vampire at his Connecticut home, which is not a home. She gets out of the car. He meets her at the limo, and she's trying to secure him to be showing his work at her gallery. And she thinks it will be a great coup if she's able to secure this. She's talking to him, and he's walking her up to where I presume he's going to murder her because it's a barn. And he opens the barn door for her as he looks at her like a monkey on a banana tree as she walks in. The barn is dark. And at this point, I'm thinking, eek, 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 eek. I don't know. That's my New York instinct. First of all, what? How? Why? And just because he's famous doesn't mean that he hasn't the ability to kill you. Kill you. Run. And you go by yourself? What are you, high? This is what I'm saying. This is not New Yorkers. My New York instincts is like, I'm going to bring a bodyguard and a band because I'm not going anywhere. I don't care who you are. No. So as the lights are off, he turns on the lights and he's expressing to her that, he's done so much work, but this is his greatest work. And as the lights come on, he says, my greatest work, see you next Tuesday. I will not say that word. I don't like that word. You figure it out from there. And there's a bunch of murals of these see you next Tuesdays splattered all around his work. If that doesn't make you leave, then I don't know what will. because what comes after is just as bad. And she is shocked because all she sees are these huge paintings of women see you next Tuesdays on his wall, and he starts going up to them and starts touching them, and he says, this is my greatest work. It's the see you next Tuesday, the power, the earth, the life-giving. And she's like, that's true. And as Carrie is narrating, she says that Charlotte doesn't like that word. Thank you, Charlotte, because neither do I. And he's like, this is where all my work is right now. These are women that have inspired me. I'm like, okay. So they all sat for him, opening up their see you next Tuesdays to be part of this wall in a barn in Connecticut for his enjoyment. Vampire has someone coming in with lemonade, and he introduces Charlotte as Gertrude, I think, his wife. So Vampire has a wife that is standing there looking at all the women that inspired him to create the See You Next Tuesdays. Charlotte is freaked out, and and then he asks Charlotte, I would like for you to pose for me. I don't even know what to say. Pose how? From a Polaroid? From a picture? From a sketch? What do you mean you want me to pose for you? What is happening here? And the wife, if you call it that, is looking at her. Oh, honey, I believe that you must have a beautiful see you next Tuesday. Yep, that's Charlotte's story. She's contemplating what she should pose her see you next Tuesday to the vampire so she can secure him and her see you next Tuesday, plus all of the other see you next Tuesday in her gallery. I want to be forewarn you. That would not be a show that I would. I don't want to see a bunch of that all over the place. What is that? Listen, as we get further into the series, I might as well tell you this right now. If you guys remember, Charlotte never even looked at her own. So I found it fascinating upon rewatch that when she tells the team that she's never seen her own, that suddenly she's willing to pose for Vampire in the beginning of the series to have her see you next Tuesday up on a mural in her gallery. No. And let me be clear. No. There's not enough gallery money in the world to have it up there with the rest of them. There's just a little bit more to come. And if you have a moment and you want to see more see you next Tuesdays of me, well, not that literally. If you want to see more of me, less the Tuesday, subscribe. So did you think it was going to get any better? Of course not. It gets even worse. So after we leave the murder barn with the see you next Tuesday murals that I'm guessing Charlotte has decided to pose for, we are now back at that freaking restaurant, Balzac. For the love of God, let it go, Samantha. She is insisting to get into this stupid freaking restaurant. There's a million restaurants in New York. You're still trying to go back. She's in front of the hostess with the lostess or the leastess. And she's trying to justify the fact that since Carrie was already there, why can't they get there now, inside now? And the hostess is again ignoring her. And finally, Samantha says, hey, can I speak to someone else, please? Another hostess? The hostess gives her an attitude. I go back to, Why do you want to be there if this woman still gives you an attitude? Get over it. Like, oh my God, what is this, the obsession? So Carrie has decided that as they're waiting for the hostess to pretend to find someone else, that she's going to go to the ladies' room. So she saunters up the stairs, and guess what loud mouth that she hears? Carrie! Amelina the pimp is waving at her at the same table that she was before with Gilles, or in the same vicinity. And she waves her and says, come on down. And she sees a group of people. This time she's not with teeny tiny penis. Okay? She's with a new guy. So she goes back down the stairs and goes up to the table where Amelina the pimp is. And I guess she found a newfound pimp. And she introduces the new guy that she's with. And then she introduces her to the most scariest mob. Because at least when she introduced Carlos, teeny tiny pimp, and Gilles, they look somewhat decent. This crowd scared the hell out of me. I was like, oh my God. Amelina has fallen down the stairs. Because whatever level she was with teeny tiny penis and Gilles, she is now with the mob. And she's telling Carrie who these guys are, and that, she's telling the guys, how beautiful Carrie is. She's the smartest, she's the this, and Carrie's looking at her very, standoffish. And this guy is like, I totally believe it. I guess that Amelina is trying to pimp her now to this one. And he's from Venice, and he has a palazzo, and that they're gonna go next week, and that she should come and take her, laptop and write all about it. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to pimp you out until I get my money's worth from the dote shoes. That's exactly how I took it. At this point, I'm getting scared. I'm like, is this how the rest of the show is gonna go? Forever. And this guy, scary guy, says, oh, you should come to Venice. And he starts to grab her, pulls her close to him. I don't know what he's saying. I'm just very disturbed about this whole scene of what's happening. Okay. And, she starts to consider this and justify in her head that she can leverage herself as a sexy security bond. She can leverage herself and get a nice necklace out of it, and a trip, and a very wealthy divorce, wealthy marriage with an even wealthier divorce. I'm like, this is the Real Housewives. I swear, that's the only thing I can think of. And Andy Cohen. Because this is how I feel. I'm not saying they all are like that, but it sounds a lot like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In every type of scenario that this was. And then he puts his hand on her ass, and she jumps out, and she goes, no, I gotta go. I have somebody waiting for me. And I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you, Carrie. And, Amelita, oh, I'm so sorry. That's a tapiti. And she's like, I just lost whatever money I was going to get out of Carrie. So that's the end of that. And Carrie walks away and says that Venice may be sinking, but my morals don't have to. Crisis averted. And she ends up in the bathroom, the ladies' room. I shouldn't say bathroom. I really hate that word. It's the ladies' room. And she's washing herself. She's talking to herself that she's going to forget about everything that happened, and she's just going to chuck off that she just established her rate for a one-night stand, $1,000. Okay. And all of a sudden, you hear the narration that the strongest woman in New York comes out of the stall and asks Carrie if she has a tampon. And Carrie does and gives it to her. And then the next scene you have is that the hostess that was bitching and moaning to Samantha seats her and Carrie at a very teeny tiny little table at this freaking restaurant that Samantha's obsessed with. And Carrie's narrating that she never told Samantha where she found her power and how she was able to get a table and get this crazy woman, the one that hates her, a table. And they sit down, and finally Samantha's happy. She finally got to sit down on the smallest table in the entire place, because all she wanted to do was sit in this freaking restaurant that, I swear to God, was so crowded you couldn't even hear yourself. That's impossible. We don't know about the food. We don't know if it was good. We don't know the chef. We don't know nothing. We just know that no matter what, Samantha was going to get a chair, a table, Even if she had to crawl, beg, scream, snap this girl's neck if she had to sit at this damn restaurant, with Amelina the pimp, I would have left already. Because that tells me a lot. And if you think this is the end, no, the end of this storyline. Because now we get to cap off Charlotte's trip to the cabin in the woods. They do. So the next scene we have is the gallery is open. And you have the girls all together looking at all the canvases of the vampires and his See You Next Tuesdays that he has created to place into this said gallery that we find out how it was secured. And everybody's running around trying to figure out which one is Charlotte's See You Next Tuesday. And Charlotte goes up to them and they're like, is this the one? No. And then they run, is this the one? No. And then she secretly tells Carrie, who's wearing a robe, because that's not even a piece of clothing, it's a robe. And then the crazy line goes from Carrie to Miranda to Samantha. And then they all run to the one that Charlotte has posed for. And they all look at it. So I just want to be clear. Charlotte did secure Vampire by posing her See You Next Tuesday to him so it could be hung up in her gallery for all the world to see. Now, I'm presuming that there's no names on these See You Next Tuesdays. I have to tell you that I love my friends dearly. Not right now, at that time, because I'm just like this. And I start looking at the side. And I look at the side. And I clearly stated to them, if you ever show me your See You Next Tuesday, that will be the last Tuesday you will ever see. Don't do that. Don't do that to me. And if I ever tell you that I'm going to go spread myself to someone so I can be hung up in a gallery, I need you to cancel me. Now, art is subjective. And if that's what you want to do, good for you. No. And let me be clear. No. Cute show. Cute episode. Very different, I have to tell you. Not what I normally am accustomed to. So I do appreciate that. A little scary on the money and the exchange and the pimp and the mob and the one night stand fee. Let's get into the epilogue because I got a little bit left to say about this. See you soon. Lester Tuesday. Stay tuned. Epilogue. Well, I have to say that as I'm still trying to grow to the show at that time, this one could have tipped the scale the other way where I would have stopped watching the show. It was a little far-fetched. It was a little bit dangerous and putting women in a position where they could have been really harmed. And yeah, that's how dark I was going when I was watching this. I was like, yeah, okay. You got way too many scenarios. You're putting these women in these awkward positions that it's just very uncomfortable. And I was very uncomfortable watching it. I liked a little bit of the humor that was injected for some of the scenarios. I think it's very interesting how different people view sex, power, money, exchange. I did enjoy that part that each one of them had their own variation of what that means to them. But this could have gone a very different way. And if anyone has ever put in these positions, and have experienced the raw end of it, that is the kind of fear that I would atone to watching something like this. I didn't find it as humorous as I would have found it. I found it very enlightening when you think about how it progresses all the way to And Just Like That, with the shoe addiction of Carrie, her constantly being broke, and how she falls ass backwards into money. How? this woman is able to go into a shoe store, and not just any shoe store, Dolce, 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 and she comes out with a pair of shoes that she hasn't even paid for. They cut her credit card. She goes home. She throws her bills in the trash. And I still don't understand how the hell she pays her bills. She falls back ass backward into a man who gives her $1,000 for a one-night stand, and she's contemplating how she's going to use her found money, and she still has her bills to pay, and she miraculously falls into Mr. Big and winds up getting married to this man who has a lot of money, who then in turn dies and leaves her a lot of money. And I'm like, I could be the problem. Maybe I'm the one that's sick. Because I'm telling you, this woman and the way they write her, she has no shortage of luck. No shortage of luck. She's lived on fumes for a very long time and the kindness of strangers. I have to believe that. Because, she claims writing pays well, but if it pays well, why are you throwing your pills in the trash? Why are you fleecing your friends for a poker game? Your friends. How is she getting through? Because if I recall, other than the fact that she does realize that she spent $40,000 on shoes at one point, I don't remember, and we'll go through this as we go through the rest of the episodes, if we ever really touch upon her financial situation, like this deep. Because this was very interesting for me to understand. Because even though she should be at a much more dire straight situation, she bounces back like nobody's business. And she has expensive shoes and clothing, labels, and somehow she's making it. So she is not doing the one night stand anymore. She has her morals. She has her standards. So then how? She doesn't cook. She's always going out to eat. Are friends paying her bills? As far as like restaurant? Like, I really don't get it. Like what, and forget the credit card because it's been cut. So tell me how, please tell me how. Tell me how. And can I start doing it now too? Can I get in on this game? Because I was a single mom back then and I was raising my son and I was doing it. And you could ask my son, I was working my ass off. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had hard times, but mom always kept a roof over his head, food in his stomach, a bed, a room. I was doing it and it wasn't easy. And this show made it seem as if it was just so easy to fall into these kind of scenarios. And I'm like, And yes, maybe there are some people out there who thought it was possible. Maybe this resonated with a lot of people because they were doing this. And then when you get into these shows like The Real Housewives, and because I watched that show for maybe 2 years, and I was just fascinated by the way that these women behaved and their husbands and how they met and how they dealt with. The closest thing that I would say before this to get into that rich lifestyle was one of two shows, Dynasty, which was in the 80s, and Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And still, I couldn't understand how these women were doing. And now I'm beginning to get to understand this. So I'm curious to see if this was something that resonated with you. Do you know people like this? Were you someone like that? God bless you. Good luck. So tell me, did you like it? Thank you. Again, for my last videos, we're going to get further into this. It still doesn't make any sense how Carrie lives her life. I want to thank everyone that has done what I asked. Engage, comment, share, like, do all of it. Because somehow YouTube keeps telling me that few of my subscribers are engaged in my videos. And I find that very, very odd because I see you. So in order to push these videos out to the algorithm, because that's who I work for, an invisible algorithm that controls my videos, and to help grow this channel and help grow our comments and our comment in our section, in our community, I depend on you guys. And I only want people who want to be kind to each other. Don't come into my comments. Don't be rude, because let me tell you something. If I don't say something, I know a few subscribers and people in my community will tell you off. This is not what we're about here. We're about fun, love, enjoyment, caring, sharing. And I really don't want anybody. I mean, you can try to leave a negative comment. Good luck with that. But I am sick of all this other rhetoric that's happening on YouTube. And we're going to make this as a fun place to be, even if I have to take you down kicking and screaming. So, see you next, not Tuesday. 2 videos a week. I'm recording them, uploading the clips. We're going to get through this because we're going to do this together, team. My community, my beautiful people. I hope this was funny and enlightening. And I would like for you to enlighten me a little bit too. I want you to all have a beautiful, beautiful, blessed day. Thank you. Goodbye. Mwah.